the Faenza Codex, dating from around 1430, is the second main source of late medieval organ music. And like the earlier Robertsbridge Codex, it presents a mainly two-voice texture with slow-moving notes in the left hand and quicker, more ornate figurative patterns in the right hand. Many of the works in Faenza were originally vocal models that have been arranged for the keyboard in a similar way to the Vitry motets of the Robertsbridge Codex, where the upper voice would gain ornamental figurative patterns to keep the interest of the listener in the absence of a text. Whenever we're approaching this early music, we have to be a bit of a detective, piecing together information from many different types of sources. And we have accounts of people playing songs on the organ. The closest one to the Faenza Codex I found is an account of the Pope's visit. It was Pope Pius II visiting Mantua with his entourage in 1460. So some 30 years perhaps after the Faenza Codex was compiled. But we are told that among the entertainments given to the Pope was a performance of songs played on the organ by Bianca dei Medici. This is a very interesting source for several reasons. Of course, it corresponds to the song repertoire arranged for instrument, for keyboard performance that we find in the Faenza Codex. It's Italian, a bit farther north than Faenza, but nonetheless suggesting that there was a practice of this, suggesting the secular repertoire being played on the organ, even for a luminary like the Pope, and of course, a woman playing the organ as part of the Pope's entertainments during his visit. So this sort of information can also be used in programming, telling a story to your audience, and then perhaps using some of the music that has survived to illustrate the types of sounds that may have been heard by Pope Pius II. I would like to include now an arrangement of a very lively vocal model. Ursus, vous dormez trop, ma jolie Madame Joliette. And it means, what now? You're sleeping too much, my fair lady, or my pretty little lady. And this, of course, could be very, very dramatic with the text. And you might wonder, why would it be chosen for intabulation on the organ? And I don't know for sure, but I think it's partly because of the repetition. You can imagine trying to wake up the pretty young lady, and that comes through in the repetition and the repetition of figuration in the Faenza arrangement of the Virelai. For this, I would choose something a little bit maybe more aggressive with principals. In this case, I'm using the 4-foot and 2-foot octaves on the Fritz organ. Here's the opening, which starts off without the insistence that we'll get later when they're trying to wake up the young lady. And again, you'll notice it's in 2 parts, with the left hand having a slower part and more figuration in the right. Now, if I play that in a different way, it could be much calmer, as with another chanson such as the De ce faux pensée. It's useful, I think, to know a bit about the text, a bit about the spirit of the original vocal model in rendering it in the arrangement. One interesting aspect of the repetition in Orsus is that sometimes both parts, both hands, land on the same note. And there are other places in the Faenza Codex where there are even crossovers, where the top voice is lower than the bottom voice. This has been used as evidence that these pieces were not originally composed for keyboard. And there's been speculation that they were meant to be played by a lute duo, because unlike the earlier Robertsbridge Codex, the Faenza Codex uses a score notation, so a staff for each of the two voices. It's quite possible that this music could be played by two lutes. It sounds lovely. But to say it's not for keyboard because of places where the two parts play the same note or one voice goes under the other is not, I think, a very perceptive understanding of the keyboard, because we can easily just play a double note with one of the hands. We do this all the time in music, even up to our own day. And when one part crosses under another, we don't necessarily cross the hands, but we'll just take the lower part with the left hand and the upper part with the right hand. I think organists do this instinctively. So this is not evidence, to my mind, that the Faenza pieces are not intended for keyboard. But I'm quite happy to hear them played with other instruments. I think that's very much in the spirit of the time, that music could be adapted to many different instrumental groupings. So let's listen to some of the more insistent passages in this Virelai, Orsus, vous dormez trop. See if you can imagine someone trying to rouse the young lady with this insistent figuration. That might be a bit dull if you don't explain to your audience what's going on. But I've had many a chuckle at that point in a performance when I can tell the audience is imagining the scene implied by the text. These are examples of ways to bring this to life in our own time. We've got as many sleepyheads today as there were, I think, in the 15th century. So try varying your repertoire with a little bit of thematic fun across the centuries. And have a look at Orsus, vous dormez trop from the Faenza Codex. It's in my anthology of late medieval music, number 8. And there is also a full transcription of Faenza Codex with the vocal models in the Corpus Mensurabilis Musicae, for any of you that have access to a music reference library.